Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how to understand inversions of triads or chords. Remember from my previous video that triads are essentially just 3-note chords. In inversions, an inverted chord is basically just a different spelling of the 3 notes. Now this video will not get into 7th chord inversions, it will not get into Roman numerals, it will just get into which position is what inversion, and also what the kind of commercial chord symbols are, sometimes called the macro analysis, would be for that chord. Again, I'm not going to be covering all of the inversions of chords as far as Roman numeral analysis is concerned. All right, so let's start with something simple like a C major chord. Again, that's C, E, G. And again, if you need some practice on how to figure out your chords, I recommend you check out the previous video I did on using the chord tool to figure out pretty much any triad. So when you have a chord like this, where the root is on the bottom, where it's C, E, G, and the root of the chord is on the bottom, this is called root position. And remember that the bottom note's called the root, the middle note's called the third, and the top note's called the fifth. And a really easy way to spot root position chords is they're always going to be line, 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 or space, space, space. So for instance, if I did an F chord, FAC, that's our F major triad, it's space, space, space. So it's easy to spot root position chords because they're always line, 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 or space, space, space. So let's take our C major chord here. Let's copy and paste it over a couple times. And I'll just type in root position. Actually, I tell you what, let me do it below. There we go, root position. For triads, you basically have root position, and then you have 2 inversions. The first inversion is called first inversion, and the second inversion is called second inversion. So I'll just type those in down here. Just first and second inversion. Whoop. There we go. And just pull those down. All right, the only difference between a root position triad and a first inversion triad is that the bottom note, the C, the root note, has been moved up an octave. So let's just do that. I'll move it up an octave. So now instead of the chord being spelled C, E, G, it's now E, G, C. You could also think about this, you know, if we had a triad that was up here in root position, you could think about it as opposed to pulling the bottom note up an octave, you can think about it as pulling the top 2 notes down an octave. But either way, you end up with the same result. So this is root position, first inversion. So I'm just going to copy that same thing over here with second inversion. And the difference between first inversion and second inversion is that now your third is moved up an octave as well. So we'll take our E here and move it up an octave. And there we go. So we have first inversion, or excuse me, root position, first inversion, second inversion. So they're all 3 of these are C chords. They still have a root of C. It's just that the bottom note has changed now. The bass has changed. And that's one thing that a lot of people get confused about is they see root position triad, C, E, G, and then they look at first inversion, they see an E on the bottom, and they get confused. They're like, how is this a C triad if the C is not in the bass? Well, it can be that. It's a C, E, G chord. The C is just not in the bass. Now, the way you would name these chords with commercial chord symbols would be like this. A C major chord is just going to be a capital C. Sometimes you'll see like a capital M next to it, but usually it's just capital C. First inversion is going to be a C, and then basically what you do is you put a slash either next to it or under it, and then you put what the bottom note is. And this goes for all of our first inversion triads. So our bottom note is E. So E is in the bass. So this tells the musician that they need to play a C chord, but they need to make sure that the bottom note is an E. And then for our second inversion, again, it's a C chord. You type a slash, and then you look at what the bottom note is, and the bottom note is G, so we have a C over G chord. So this also works for minor chords, diminished chords, works for augmented chords as well, but typically augmented chords are pretty uncommon to see inversions of. Let's try another one. Let's try F minor. You know what? Let's try F sharp minor. So an F sharp minor chord is F sharp, A, C sharp. So I'm just going to copy and paste this over. So for first inversion, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my F sharp, move that up an octave. And you want to keep the accidental on it as well. And then for second inversion, I'm going to move the A up an octave, as well as the F sharp. So root position, first inversion, second inversion. And in order to name this chord, we'd say F sharp. And I use little m for minor. Some people will use like a dash for minor. That's the way I name it. For first inversion, you'd call this F sharp little m slash, and then whatever the bottom note is, so A. And then for second inversion, it's F sharp little m slash, and then C sharp is in the bass. And there you go. So that's just a quick video on how to understand triad inversions. Again, I didn't get into seventh chords. Seventh chords have actually a third inversion because there's one extra note in seventh chords. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.